Okay, so welcome to my first yap session and slash draw with me. We're gonna be mostly drawing with a little bit of yabbage going on. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said that. So I'm drawing this cover of my art supply just because while we talk about AI art. Um, yeah, let's get started. Oh, I have to refill. I was gonna refill my paint, but I've decided to use a different palette. Today I'm gonna use the Rembrandt watercolors. It's the first time I'm using this, but so I mean I've used watercolors before, but I'm not like a professional of the medium. So this is the first kind of like professional watercolor palette I'm gonna use, and we're gonna talk a bit about AI art. So let's get started with that. I already have my water, my paintbrush, and everything. Yeah, so AI art, let's talk about it. I don't know if people are actually gonna watch this, but if anyone does join in, I can't see anything, so I'm just gonna be talking. And then I'll occasionally look at my phone to see if there's any comments. But yeah, my deal with AI art is like everyone else, I'm not super upset, but I'm pretty upset about just kind of like how it was set up, how it was deployed, you know, just stealing people's artwork and no payment, no nothing actually. They're just like, oh, if it's online, you know, it's public domain, we can use it however, whenever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's kind of like how everyone uses the internet, right? But when you're creating something that you're, you know, eventually gonna monetize based off of other people's talent and skills, and you're basically just, you know, profiting off this without giving those people their piece of the pie, then that's kind of like where the line is crossed, right? So it's kind of the same as someone watching your video and they're, you know, basically just sitting there watching it, and you're not getting paid for that. Like, yeah, they set up the platform, you know, they garner the audience and things like that, but they're not like providing the content, so they're basically just profiting off your content to their audience. So that's a no-no. If you're gonna do that, then just, you know, provide your own content, and you know you've already got the platform. That's kind of how it should be, right? So for me, that is what AI art is. It's taking people's work and just going crazy. Like, anyway. So again, my initial reaction was AI art is terrible. No one should be using AI art, and I still believe that. Don't get me wrong, but I will be sharing some very unpopular opinions, and I'm not hyper focused on it. Like, I'm not stuck to it or anything. I'm willing to change my mind if someone disagrees with me. But I think it is something to consider, just as an artist, from an artist's perspective. So a little bit of a backstory on why I felt the need to start this and talk about it is, um, so some friends or colleagues of mine are building kind of like a prototype of something that they're working on, and they used AI art. And they were like, I don't know why so many people are upset about it. It's just, it exists. AI art works, blah, blah, blah. It's just to get the idea down. And I was like, yeah, it's good for getting the idea down. And, I understand your perspective. You don't want to, hire someone to sketch ideas. I don't know. But the thing is, again, it's stolen art on these models, and you're just kind of like supporting this idea that AI art should exist, it should be used, things like that. And so after I had this discussion, I kind of started to think about, my career, or my very brief career as a artist, and you know taking commissions and drawing for people. And I started to think back on a lot of the work that I did at the time, and just a little bit about that was, at the time, it was, I was excited to kind of go on my art journey and, be productive as an artist. And so I was doing a lot of work for, not free, but I was doing it for very cheap. And I was just, happy to get my name out there and, do all of these things. But a lot of the kind of like time that I wasted during this time was communicating with people, and just kind of like trying to figure out what their idea is and how I can put that on to paper. And a lot of times people are like, oh, this is great, when you're done painting it and everything. Like, oh, this is great, I love it, which sounds good, right? But then the action is like, I spent maybe 12 hours on one piece, and I only get, I think I only got $50 for it, right? So that's not even, minimum wage. Oh my God, I felt terrible. But they're like, oh, you're just starting out, don't expect too much. What? Okay, looking back on it now, it sounds crazy, but at the time, I really thought that that was kind of like what was expected of me, that I wouldn't be getting paid a lot of money right off the bat. So, yeah, I just kept doing it for a while, and I got used to not getting paid and kind of like trying to make people's dreams come true. And I think after a while, I was having fun doing art and stuff, but I felt terrible that I was like exchanging something so precious to me um, for money, and it wasn't a lot of money. And yeah, it didn't sit right with me, so I stopped doing it. But where AI art comes into this is, these models are built on kind of like understanding the language and interpreting people's message and kind of like the ideas they do want to portray, right? And so you think, or I'd assume that like people would be better at communicating with AI, and there's not another person sitting on the end kind of getting frustrated with what you're trying to communicate with them. So like, I want this. When you're writing prompts, you're like, I want this, and um, I want it to do this, and I need it to output something. So that's why they have like professional prompt writers, or kind of like why this is becoming so popular, professional prompt writing. But there was still the issue of like how the models are being fed. I hot take, unpopular opinion, whatever. Um, it wouldn't have been an issue if the models were trained on materials that were kind of like rightfully obtained. In this scenario or in this world, um, where the models were kind of built off of a structured um, database where they got their art from artists. They like paid the artist, submit your artwork to be trained by AI, blah blah blah. If you're interested, and then we'll pay you such and such amount of money. That's kind of like the agreement, the exchange, and then these models are built off these databases of like large amounts of data, artwork that were rightfully obtained, and they're used to kind of like create the art, right? So in this world, if that like existed, some companies say they built their models like this, but I don't think that's true. I think there's kind of like still a little bit of data in there. I don't think that there's any model out there that's not built on like some form of copyrighted data, unfortunately. But in that perfect world where it was, then if this really happened, whatever, then people can communicate their ideas to these models, and they can go back and forth and kind of spend that time having the model kind of learn what it is that they're looking for the piece that they're making. And I believe, like, the short time that I was a artist and I was doing commissions and things like that, that was like the most frustrating part for me. Revisions and kind of like trying to make people's dreams come true and just not getting there with it, and people just kind of like being super disappointed about like, oh, you didn't capture my idea well enough. And that's it. I don't know, it just really didn't sit well with me. It didn't feel like the type of art that I really signed up to do. Like, I love painting and drawing and things like that, but I don't want to sit there and just kind of like be the AI model and be the prompt receiver to kind of like generate these ideas that are in people's mind. Like, I think there are people that can do that totally and definitely have that skill, but I want to be the type of artist that um, can take kind of like a general idea. It doesn't, people have these specific images and ideas in their mind that they want to create, and I don't want to be that type of artist. I don't want to be the type of artist to kind of like, I must, like, it is very much necessary for me to create things exactly as they are in the customer or the client's head. Like, who in their world, I'm sorry, oh my god, who in their right mind is like, oh, I can create exactly what you're imagining, even though I've never seen it, I don't know what it looks like, but we're gonna figure this out together. Like, no, what? No, it's a no for me. Um, but I do think there are people out there that can and will do that. I just think that I'm not one of them. And so that's why I'm saying, like, is AI art bad? Absolutely, of course, duh. In a perfect world, could it have been like deployed on much better terms. Yes. Yes. It, just period. Yes. But we have what we have, and unfortunately, like it could only get better. I could only see it getting better to the point where I don't think it'll ever replace actual artists. I don't think it'll ever get to that point where it'll replace traditional artists um, or digital artists or any other form of art. And I think being like considering yourself a AI artist is weird. Is honestly super weird. That's like I don't know. I feel like you should just consider yourself like a collage artist or something. Like not no, not a AI artist. Oh my god, what kind of nonsense? Maybe it's like maybe instead of changing how they um, address themselves, we can just change how we view AI artists. So instead of viewing them as like actual artists, like the same as traditional and digital artists, we can view them as collage artists because that's basically what they're doing. They're taking this, technology and um, just creating like a collage of other people with other people's work. They're not creating anything. They're basically just organizing pictures. So yeah, that's my whole thing on AI artists. I'm not a huge fan. I don't think I've ever met an AI artist in real life or one that I particularly like. Um, but playing a bit of devil's advocate here, I guess. I don't know. I'm just talking. I'm just yapping. We're just here to draw and yap about AI art. Just to consider all angles of the argument. But if someone wants to, I'm looking at my phone. If someone wants to use AI art, because they're, like I said, at this point, models already exist. There's like, not a lot we can do about removing them. So if someone wants to use AI art for, kind of getting an idea of what they want, I'd say let AI art do, let AI models do the hard work, which is kind of like letting the people or letting, the client figure out what their idea is and just communicating with AI and like how they want to execute that idea. Because sometimes that can be, super frustrating, especially if you're, a young artist like I was, and you're just starting out, and you're like, like this person doesn't even know what they want. They're just like asking for stuff. Like, oh, let AI deal with that part, and then like once you figure that out, once you've got your idea down, then you can maybe bounce back to me. I read this book when I was in college about work. I think it was called Work Disrupted, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot who the author was, but the general idea of the book was when. Oh, sorry, I am thinking about something else. When you are, um, you know, you're young, how life is now, and everyone's talking about how computers are taking over the world. Like, next thing you know, the computers are going to have our jobs and blah, blah, blah. And the book is talking about, like, how a lot of the jobs computers are taking are not really, like, jobs that people want. That's kind of, like, why we have computers taking them. So, like, server jobs and cashier jobs, these types of things. And for the jobs that, you know, will still require um, people to actually be there, are not like taking over, like, you know, doctors and lawyers and these type of things. It's supposed to be helping us assist, you know, better assist our customers instead of like completely taking over. So that's kind of like the gist of that whole book. And I brought that up because it kind of goes back into what I was mentioning before about having AI deal with, you know, the customer and having them be able to get their ideas down and just kind of like draft out whatever it is that they need so we can get basically the hard part out the way, which is creating something from someone's mind that you aren't able to see, and then they just kind of like, you know, they have this idea in their mind that you as the artist should be able to put on paper. But if you know, then you know that ideas move and they change and they transform until, I mean, sometimes it's possible, you know, some people are realistic and they're like, oh, you know, realistically this person might not be able to like get this idea down, so I'll kind of like, you know, work within their capabilities, something like this. But not everyone thinks that way, so, you know, it's good to just kind of get that out the way where, you know, a person doesn't really know what they want, or their expectations are too high, or um, they're not really looking at the artist as a person with feelings in a job and life, and, you know, they're trying to get their career started or anything, and they're trying to take advantage of them. So that's where I think AI art can play a huge role in benefiting artists. And I honestly think AI art is doing nothing but drawing the crowd to us as artists. Like, people will start to value um, things drawn by humans much more. And you can already see it now whenever you see those AI videos, or those really silly posts of people like really just hating on AI. And they're like, oh, see, we don't need AI. This is super funny without AI, blah, blah, blah. You can kind of start seeing that shift in like what people value and the things that they want more. There are some people that are like really appreciative of AI because, you know, it's quick, it's easy, they don't have to communicate with people, etc. But hey, you know, there's always going to be the few. But I think other than companies like really pushing AI and their models and trying to kind of grasp large amounts of data, I think for us artists, individual artists, you know, you're not like spamming, or I hope you're not spamming a bunch of people, you know, trying to get them to um, let me draw a commission for you. My commissions are open. You know, everyone should do what do you call it? Oh my god, I'm brain farting right now. Everyone should sign up to get a commission done by me. You know, no one's doing that. I mean, maybe there is like that one guy in Connecticut that's doing it. I don't know. But no one's just kind of like, oh, everyone should um, get some, get a commission done by me. Like, are you trying to die of exhaustion? Or I don't know. So I think people will start to shift back towards like realistic and more people are able to identify what's being done by AI or not. Hopefully, we'll start to pass some laws on like being able to signify if something has been done with AI or not. Right now, I would say traditional media is pretty safe in that area. For now, I haven't really seen a lot of like AI bots creating anything. I don't know how well known it is that there was an artist. I don't know if he's still doing it. That created an AI model that can create physical work. But I'm pretty sure he's not the only one that's working on something like that. But let's just, for peace of mind, let's just say we're safe for now. But who knows what's coming, I mean, you can look it up, but let's just say for now we're safe. Traditional artists, but yeah. So that was my AI art rant about who knows what. Um, let's see. I'm looking at the comments now. There's only 2 people here. I don't know what that is. I don't think I have anything else to say about AI art. I'm done on that topic. In terms of this piece, I don't know what I'm doing. If it looks like I do, you are mistaken. I'm just putting pigment on the paper. And seeing if it works. Even though I have used watercolors before, I feel like every time I use them, it's been a while since I've used them, but every time I do use them, I feel like I'm using them for the first time. Maybe because the amounts of time that I use them are so far apart. I don't know why I'm making her face pink. Tone it down. But yeah, what are your thoughts on AI art? Like, I mean, other than it's bad, you have to come up with something more dynamic than that. Yes, it is bad. Yes, it has stolen art. But can you see any pros to it? If it's a hard no, a very elaborate ask her as to why. And it has to sound very reasonable. Like, it can't just be, I don't like AI art because I just don't like it. Like, yeah, okay. But what else? We've already established that it has stolen, but what else? It's bad, yes, for now. I mean, it's bad, like, in terms of how it looks. It's sloppy and it's unorganized, right? Yes, but what else? I'll fix her face when it dries. I completely forgot somehow that I'm painting with watercolor and I cannot paint white over this blue, which I was intending to do. So we will just make it work. decided to go over this with gouache because I messed up this part. Okay, I completely messed up her face, but that's okay because this is just practice. Ooh, that's too dark. boards, and I'm just throwing stuff in there. Okay, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. It has been 40 minutes and this painting is getting nowhere. I am bored and I might just start working on another one. But just for the fun of it, I'm gonna do this. And I brought the painting to life just a little. And then I'll try adding the blue. Not terrible, not great. I'm gonna switch brushes and add very tiny details. Like her eyebrows. Ooh, stronger than I wanted it to be. I'm gonna blend that out a bit. Even though I'm no longer interested in painting this, I still want it to go out with a bang. I am a firm believer in if you aren't interested in doing something anymore, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can let it go. And I think the black will take us home. See, it's not great, but it's not terrible. It's worth noting, though, I do not usually paint like this. I just wanted to try these watercolors out, and I did, and I had fun. And now I'm over it. I want to go back to gouache. I need to watch more artists that are watercolor painters so I can get some tips. I started that way when I was working with gouache about a year ago, and I would say that I've gotten a lot better at it, at gouache, than I was before. Maybe I should do the same for watercolor. If it isn't obvious, her neck is here. So something like that. Okay. I think I'm gonna stop here. And the painting is not great, but it's not terrible. Actually, I'm going to do a little bit of something else. Add the black here. I like how cool this black is. Or maybe it's because I put blue on top of it. Who knows? Okay. I'd consider this done. I tried, I failed. Does it look anything like this? This is the reference. No? Okay, I didn't think so. Some of the shadows here, kind of. The lip is a little bit there. The rosiness of the cheek is there. Yeah, I wish I could have loved this one more, but I don't know. I didn't like the sketch, so I guess I didn't like the painting. Yeah, I just made it worse. Okay, I'll stop. We can leave on a high note. So yeah, AI art, share your thoughts. Do you think it's cutting out the middleman, or is just contributing to a greater whole of nonsense? Yeah, and tune in for another yap session. Draw and yap. Okay, bye.